television. Forward yesterday makes me want to stay.
Greetings, I'm your Glenn Beck of Current Music The Long Wannabe, and welcome to the Switcheroo. Now, throughout the show, I have looked at bands of the past, but what about bands who have just switched their lead singers? This Switcheroo is going to be a bit special because we are going to look at a band who, up until last week, did not have a lead singer. In fact, the group is currently going through a lawsuit with their old singer to keep the name. So much controversy for such a great band. The name of this band? San Diego's own Stone Temple Pilots. Just like Alice in Chains in episode 2, I previously gone over STP when running my old show Holding a Grunge. All of this can be seen in my archives on my Blood channel, so we'll just move on. Dusting up a bit on their history, STP is an alternative rock band who fell into the grunge category back in the early 90s. Then lead singer Scott Weiland's vocals sounded as though he was a combination of Eddie Vedder and Lane Staley. As the band progressed through the years and released more and more albums, they became one of the biggest bands of the 90s, and Scott's voice became its own thing. Born Scott Richard Klein, Weiland joined the group STP when they were originally called Mighty Joe Young. There are two different versions on how Weiland met bassist Robert DeLeo, but for the sake of time we'll skip over that, although I'll tease you with a sampler. One of the stories included the group sharing stories about their girlfriends only to discover they were dating the same gal. Mighty Joe Young would evolve into STP months later with the addition of Eric Kretz on drums and Dean DeLeo on guitar. Their debut album Core gained them early success, and from there on it was all history. Scott's voice was pivotal to the sound of the Pilots. His vocal cords had heft and strength behind them like no other. Plus, they had the unique ability to morph whenever they needed to. When they needed to sound bluesy, Scott sounded bluesy. When he needed to be a straight-out rock star, he rocked the house with his voice. But maybe a little too much. Scott nowadays is well known for his substance abuse and numerous arrests. His drug problems led to numerous fights within the group, and to make matters worse, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, to which he refused medication. Combine all these things together and it doesn't print out a pretty picture. During 2002, the band dissolved and went their separate ways. Scott became the vocalist of the supergroup Velvet Revolver, and the DeLeo brothers formed the group Army of Anyone. However, like any other group, a reunion was called on and the members put aside their problems. They reformed and even released a self-titled album. It's just too bad it wasn't that good. Another major note to be taken with the reunion was that Scott's voice was obviously a lot more worn. It didn't have that heft behind it like the early days. His physical appearance didn't help that either. But they stuck together through tooth and nail until Scott's drug problems got out of hand again in 2013. This past February, STP announced they had fired Scott because of his numerous issues. That lawsuit I mentioned at the start of the episode? Yeah, it's still going on. STP is currently suing Scott, who is using the name to get more publicity on his solo work, or from what I've read. So up until last week, I thought the band had a free spot. Then I heard the news that they played a K-Rock with a new lead singer. Who? This is Linkin Park. That singing is Chester Bennington. As of now, Chester is the new voice of Stone Temple Pilots. I'm not joking here. Stone Temple Pilots made a surprise appearance at K-Rock with Chester and played all the original hits. Scott was nowhere to be found. Then they released a new song entitled Out of Time with Chester on lead vocals for free. It sounds just like Linkin Park. Funny enough, Chester has guest appeared during live performances with SDP in the past. Just look at this clip of him singing Dead and Bloated with Scott. SDP has announced that they would like to go and record a 7th album with Chester and tour with him. So it looks as though he might be the official replacement for Scott Weiland. How does this work out for me, seeing as how I'm now comparing the two? I go with Scott. I know Scott must be a hard person to work with. He has problems out the yin-yang and he can't seem to grab a hold of himself. But just listen to Chester sing these songs. First off, why does he look like he's trying to be an exact duplicate of Scott? I know, mini nitpick, but it's just too distracting. Second, Chester's voice is way too thin for these types of songs. His nasally scream doesn't capture the raw emotion which goes into these songs, which have a special crunch to them. Whenever Scott sang, he added an extra punch to everything. Even during the reunion years where his voice was slightly off, it still sounded good. With Chester, it's just distracting. I know, I'm judging extremely early right now. We don't even know if Chester would stick around that long, but I think getting the word out about Scott's work with the group was needed. The name Stone Temple Pilots should be dropped altogether at the original lineup, who has never gone through a member change up until now, can't agree with one another. All I see is Lincoln Pilots, or Stone Temple Park. It feels just like when Velvet Revolver got together. It was Guns N' Roses headed by Scott Weiland. If Chester sticks around, dandy. Try your best with him and I'll happily listen. But please, stop crying over the name. But as for this switcheroo, I still remain grounded with Scott as the better lead vocalist for the Pilots. His voice made the band. Chester can still try to do his best with the group, but even his best can't reproduce that Weiland magic. Like I said, I'll still keep listening, but my hopes aren't high. Good luck to Scott, and good luck to Stone Temple Park. I'm the long one to be, and remember, if it's current mainstream music, I am almost always bound to hate it. This has been the Switcheroo. Thanks for watching.